Hi loves. I'm making this video today to talk about a topic that people bring up to me often, and that is, why is it so freaking hard for me to meditate? You probably hear different spiritual teachers in your life talking about how important it is to meditate and sharing different meditation practices, and yet when you actually come sit down to meditate, it doesn't happen with the ease with which you might expect, which is really frustrating, and it creates this cognitive dissonance because it seems like, oh, it should be such a really simple thing to meditate, and then when you go to do it, ooh, not so much. So why is that? Why is it so hard for us to meditate? For starters, meditation is sort of in direct opposition to the world in which we live. We live in a really fast-paced, chaotic, do world. So we're not trained in sitting. We're not trained in stillness. In fact, we're taught so often that stillness is stillness, idleness, laziness. They're all signs of weakness. They're things that we frown upon in our society. So coming right off the bat, we have this internal idea that for us to come and sit is a waste of our time, that we're not going to get anything out of it, that we're wasting time that we could be using productively to be creating something or cleaning our house or doing one of the many things we have to do each and every day. So we already come to the meditation pillow with this dissonance in our head about the importance of sitting, and that's one of the first obstacles we have to overcome. We have to allow ourselves a space within our beings to say, you know what, it is important for me to sit. It is important for me to meditate. And I am going to get things out of this. I'm going to get things like reduced brainwave states, which allow my body to actually physically heal. I'm going to get things like reduced stress, reduced nervous system dysfunction. I'm going to get things like peace within my being, this centeredness from which to approach my life. So not even diving into all of the scientific benefits, there are a lot of benefits. So we have to train our minds to, first of all, be like, yes, okay, I'm going to get something out of meditating. Another issue that we come upon is we want to sit down and we are like, okay, we're going to meditate, so there should be no thoughts in my mind. And then we sit and all of these thoughts start coming up. And it's like, well, I can't meditate. I can't do it, so I'm not going to do it. That was how it was for me when I started meditating. It was like, this is not working for me. Like, maybe I'm just not a person that can meditate. We've got really busy minds. My mind goes like 100 miles a minute, and I know that so many people in our society struggle with this monkey mind, with this really fast, active mind. And how could we not? We're watching TV while we're on our phones, while we're taking care of our kids, while we're listening to music, while there's like something going on outside. There's always like so much commotion. And then when we come and we try to come into stillness, our mind starts going crazy because all of a sudden it has spaciousness. So when we sit in meditation, we're bringing spaciousness into our beings. And the mind really does go crazy at first, because it's not used to having this spaciousness. It's used to having so much going on. So all of the thoughts start coming. So instead of getting really upset when that happens, we have to learn to accept that as a part of the meditative experience. When you're not used to sitting in stillness, you're going to, without a shadow of a doubt, experience the mind going crazy, the mind running in circles, the mind telling you, I can't do this, I can't sit like this isn't working. It happens to everybody when they start meditating, and it's totally natural. Frustrating? Absolutely, but natural. So what we have to learn to do is to sit through that, to, even though our minds are going crazy, to know that we're doing important work. So as you're sitting in meditation and your mind is running wild, you have to embrace that from a state of acceptance, from a state of, this is okay. This is meditation. And if we just sit and meditate once a week, once a month, once in a blue moon, that's going to happen every single time that we meditate. And so it's going to get really, really, really frustrating. Like every time I try to meditate, this happens. So I just don't meditate. The thing about meditation is it's a process that builds upon itself. So when we build a devotion to our meditational practice, we start to see the mind coming into moments of stillness. They might not at first be moments that last very long. They might be very quick, fleeting moments. That said, we start to experience it more and more when we sit in meditation as we build a devoted practice. So I always like to tell people it's better to sit for 5 minutes a day in meditation than it is to sit for an hour once a week, because you're building that muscle. It's the same as anything that we learn to do. We have to learn to do it. You're not just going to get on a bike and ride away. If you've never ridden a bike before, you have to learn to bring that balance. You have to learn how all the parts work together. It's the same with meditation as it is with anything. You have to implement the process into your being. And that takes time, and that takes practice, and that takes commitment to that practice. So when you come and you sit down and your mind starts racing, so you're here, you're meditating, and all of a sudden, thought. The real work is not to be like, I need silence right now. No, the real work is to come in and be like, okay, I'm going to come back to my breath. So it's like you keep going into your thoughts, and it's supernatural. It's super, super, super natural that you're going to go into those thoughts. And then you just bring yourself back. And then it wanders again 1 second later, and you bring yourself back. And the trick is to do that without judgment. It's so easy to be like, God, I suck at this. I'm just like not good at meditation. Meditation isn't something to be good at. It's not a competition. You're not competing against other meditators. You're doing it to bring peace and healing and wholeness into your being. So we have to do that from a place of compassion for ourselves. We have to come to meditation with compassion, or we will never, ever, ever be able to do it. It's such a beautiful thing when we can experience moments of absolute stillness. It's so beautiful. There's really nothing like it. And if you do dedicate to a meditation practice, you will experience those moments. But you have to understand that you're going to experience craziness within your mind when you come to meditation. You're going to, without a shadow of a doubt, without question, that is going to happen. And so when your thoughts start coming, you just come back to your breath. You just come back to your center point. And it's such a great lesson, because when we're out in life, the chaos isn't going to stop. That said, there's so much to be gained from being able to hold a still point, a centered point as we go about our lives. So meditation really is a great practice in this sense. And instead of seeing it as something so frustrating, seeing it as a lesson which you can then apply to all of your life. Also, I just want to point out there's so many forms of meditation. If one form of meditation, like sitting, seated, silent, isn't working for you, maybe don't start there. Start with meditations which are a bit more active. Do a walking meditation, maybe, where you're walking slowly, you're feeling each footfall as it hits the ground, you're hearing the sounds of the leaves rustling around you in the wind, blowing, and the birds singing, and you're smelling the wildflowers around you. And you're really engaging your senses and just being super present. I found this is an easier way for people who aren't used to meditating to actually come into some of that still point, stillness, because there's action involved. The body's moving, and then the mind can quiet, rather than the body being still and then the mind being crazy. You can do this in any sort of physical activity. You can do meditative gardening, where you're just being super mindful about the hole you're digging, and you're sending love to the plant that you're planting, and you're putting prayers into the water. Just a really mindful meditation. You can do it with dance. Dance is one of my favorite meditational practices because you really just let your body, let your flow, you let everything just go how it wants to go without any control. And that's a beautiful practice. So that's often a really good way to start in meditating. Also, I highly recommend doing guided meditations if you're new to meditation. There are so many amazing practitioners out there who are exceptional at guiding you with their voice into a state of stillness, into a state of healing. You can go and get a Reiki session or other type of healing session, and that's really beautiful because the practitioner is holding space for you to enter the meditational state, to experience healing. And having somebody to hold space for you is fucking awesome. I'll just say that. I have had so many amazing experiences just having somebody to hold space for me. So it's like I can fully relax because I know there's another person who's like holding the energy for me. So that's really cool. You can meditate in so many different ways. There's no one right way, and this is how you meditate, and if you're not doing it this way, you're not really meditating. No, if anybody says that, brush it off, because it's not true, and we can work our way into being able to sit and hold the still point and focus on the breath and actually receive stillness in the brain. And I want you to know that the stillness in the brain is totally possible for all of us if we devote to the practice. If each day we hold space to come into some form of meditation, and we're gentle and compassionate with ourselves when our minds run wild, because even the most experienced meditators have meditations like that. And I have found that if you have like a really awesome meditation where you just felt like so still and quiet and like high vibrational the whole time, often the next time you sit and meditate will be pure chaos, and you'll be like, what the hell? I thought I finally had this, I was finally there, and now I'm just like worse than ever. And it's because you make space for all of your traumas to come up when you're meditating. You really do. You make space through sitting in this stillness for things that are suppressed within your being to start to rise to the surface. And ultimately, that is why there's so much noise when we're meditating, because all of this stuff is coming up, and it might not be fun, but it's amazing, because when you start to release your traumas and bring them to the surface, you can actually face them. And again, this is maybe a process where you might want to have someone to hold space for you if you have a lot of trauma, because it can be scary to face those things, and you just want to stuff them back down. But as long as you're stuffing it back down, it's stuck inside of you. So meditation is allowing space for that stuff, that muck, to come to the surface, and it's creating space to breathe healing into it, to let it start to become less heavy, and to allow yourself to become ultimately more free. And I think that's really the beautiful of a meditation practice, the beauty of a meditation practice. So I hope that I answered some of your questions about why it's so hard to meditate. If you have further questions, or if there's something I didn't explain, you didn't understand, feel free to ask in the comments. Thank you for joining me in this space. I hope this video serves you. Love and light.